Let's talk about the business model.
Amazon KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. So what we're doing essentially, in a nutshell, is creating online versions of books that get printed on demand. So I'll only upload 2 files, a PDF of the book cover and the book interior. That gets uploaded to Amazon. I'll set a price, do all the description, that sort of thing, the keywords. And then when you go ahead and buy it, Amazon will then print it, send it off to the customer. I don't touch anything, and then I'll just take a cut of the sale price, just uploading as many of these like rubbish notebooks as we possibly could. Because back then in KDP, that's what you did. The first question people ask you when you do KDP is, oh, so you must be an author.
Yeah.
Not at all. I've made it. Month 3, £1,200. What's month 10 going to be?
Shit.
20,000, 30,000.
Nice.
And one book from my KDP business sold 5 times my monthly wage at Gymshark. So one book, a single book. You know what? Like, I should probably do this full time. I just completely burnt out, and I got into a really bad state where I quit the whole business altogether. I was having breakdowns. I cried on the phone to my mum. It's quite a surprise to people to hear that I actually quit and went back to a 9-to-5. So, and that was it. I'd quit. I tried the business, tried the hustle life, quit.
Brother,
How are you?
first episode.
Are you excited? Long time coming. Been chatting about this for a while. First guest as well.
This is the very first episode of Talk and Do, actually.
Yeah.
Sitting here with a really interesting guest, with a really interesting job, I would say.
Very unique.
But we come to that point later. I would say we start with you introducing yourself to the listeners while I'm smoking the shisha.
So my name's Sam, and I live in Bali now. Lived in here since mid-January, but I've been to Bali a few times beforehand.
Mid-January last year, right?
Mid-January 2024, so it's currently towards the end of March for everyone watching.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been here full-time for the last 2 months, but I've been here, this is my 4th time in Bali, so I was here for 2 months.
4 times?
This is my 4th time. So I was here for 2 months between August, September 2022, and then came here for 3 months where I first met you in March 2023.
Well, when you met me, it was the 3rd time, right?
When I met you was the 2nd time. And then the 3rd time was back end of 2023 when I was here for only a month before Christmas.
But I was not there. No, I was there.
Yeah, because we went to B-Work a lot.
Oh, yeah. And then, wait, you went home in between?
I went home for Christmas to the UK.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
And then, so my plan was to come out to Bali just for that November time and then come back and just see how I found England. Had no plans to specifically be in Bali full time, but having spent that month there that time round and then going back to England in the winter, I was just like, I have to just come back.
Yeah.
Was living in Manchester, listed my room up for rent pretty much as soon as I got back, and within a month had managed to find someone, booked a flight, and just committed to Bali now. So yeah, I've been here for 2 months working on my online business, and
so
here we are.
Basically, when you left for Christmas, that time you were not 100% sure that you're gonna live here. Is that correct?
When I came here before Christmas, so before I'd come here for the 3rd time, I was thinking not sure, but by the time I was leaving here, I was pretty sure.
Okay.
I just thought, let's go back to England, see how it's like. And then I don't know how many times you've been to England. Went back, especially in the winter. Went back. It's dark pretty much all day apart from maybe 7 or 8 hours.
Worst time.
Yeah, you wake up.
Christmas is nice, but
yeah. You come home from work, it's dark.
Yeah.
And so it's just not the best place to be in the winter. So I was like, actually, let's just come back to Bali. I'm in a fortunate position where I can do that. So I thought, you know, if I had to be like tied to England, I would stay. But I have this ability where I'm very lucky to not have to do that. So I thought I may as well make use of it. And yeah, in Bali now.
So before we talk about your business, maybe we also talk about Bali later on a bit more. Okay. I would say we dive into your journey. Okay. Starting with school. Okay. So actually with school.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this is because I think this is something I find really interesting. People who are entrepreneurs, right? Having their own business. Why I'm saying this is because most of them, you always hear the story like, I got kicked out of school, or I was Like me, myself, for example, I don't know if I ever told you, I was on 8 schools.
8?
8 schools, yeah. So I had a lot of...
From what age? Like all the way to the end of... I don't know if you have...
So I really tried my best to actually study, to make my parents proud, you know.
Of course.
Like for us, like, I don't know, like me, I see studying as like, you're kind of jobless, but your parents are proud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
University in England is literally that.
You know what I mean? Like, and also that the way I studied, you know, like 1 semester in Germany, I think in England, like everywhere is the same, it's like 6 months roundabout, right?
You're talking college, uni.
Correct.
Yeah,
like university actually, right?
Similar thing, yeah.
And I was like, to be honest with you, I was not there for like 5 months, and then like people always thought that I just already quit, you know. However, I was a troublemaker in school. School was not for me. In total, to answer your question, I was in school maybe 15 years before I actually studied, you know.
Okay.
So just I had to, how do you call it when you have to do a year again?
We just redo a year, stay back.
Redo a year. I had to do that 3 times. I got kicked out of schools like a lot of times. I said, I mean, that's why I was on 8 schools, right?
I didn't know this.
Yeah, but we knew not. So I was a troublemaker, you know. But how was Sam from Manchester?
You know what? I'm actually not from Manchester. So I grew up in Devon, which is the southwest of England.
But is it close to Manchester or not? Not at all.
It in terms of like geography for bigger countries, probably. Yeah. It's like 6 hours. People who live in the US probably say that's close, but in England, that's opposite ends of the country, basically.
Okay. So you actually moved to Manchester?
I moved to Manchester.
With the whole family or just you?
Just me. But I grew up in Devon, which is essentially just like a very rural part of England.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Okay.
Not a huge amount to do, especially as you're kind of like a young person. You want to be in like the busy city and do all that sort of thing. So again, I had the ability to be able to move where I wanted to. So if I was in England, I would want to be in Manchester.
Okay.
I was also a big United fan growing up and still am.
Yeah.
It was one of my dreams when I was younger. I would love to be able to live in Manchester. It's really weird, actually. Be able to live in Manchester, operating my own business, and be able to walk to Old Trafford where United play.
That was your dream?
As a young kid, yeah.
We're talking about what age?
Like 10, 12, like not when I was super young. When I was super young, it was just like to be able to go to United.
Okay.
Like, as I got older and became more like entrepreneurial, I was like, it would be so much better even if I could do that and then come home on like a Sunday afternoon having watched a game and not think, work in the morning. I'm like, I've got my own thing. I can get up when I want to. Like that was the ideal dream, that I was just happy to go and watch United and be able to walk there.
The soccer thing is crazy in England, right?
It's huge. Yeah. It's
like,
massive.
Is there anyone who's not into soccer actually in England?
There, you get a few people.
Yeah.
But the classic thing at like any job is...
probably you can talk with everyone about soccer, right?
And then if you meet someone who's like our age in like work or whatever, and you say, what team do you support? And they say, I don't like football.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same in Germany. I'm from Germany. So it's the same there, right?
Yeah.
They also have strong teams. Even though I'm not into soccer, but I know a bit.
Yeah.
However,
so just to jump in as well, people are going to slate me growing up from Devon but supporting United.
Is that a thing?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you think there's going to be some people in the comments like...
There's a huge thing about support your local team. I lived in the middle of nowhere, so there was nowhere really that close. Plymouth was the closest team.
Yeah.
But I actually wasn't into football or anything growing up. I was a little bit sporty when I was really young, but I was very close with my cousins, and they were football mad. And so they introduced me to football, and they were all United fans. So growing up, all I ever watched on TV was United. And I feel like when you're that young, you kind of just do what the people you look up to are doing. You cheer them on. And you can't change your team once you're done. Back when I was younger, it was good because United would win pretty much everything. Nowadays, not the same. But still had that dream of doing that. And so when I was able to live in Manchester, I could walk to the ground, walk back, work on my online business. So it didn't really seem it, but I was literally living my dream of a young child, which is kind of nice to remind yourself of.
Let's jump back into the school thing, right?
Yeah.
So
tangent.
I wanna know more about like let's say I would be your classmate, right? Describe yourself in school when you were actually young. You know.
Yeah.
You were like like how did you?
So you mentioned about this all the entrepreneurs are like the bad boys, they're misbehaved.
I think you were really good in school.
I was, people...
You look like
people who were in my class would describe me, I was like a goody two-shoes, but I wasn't like sucking up to the teacher.
Were you sitting in the first row?
No, I wouldn't do.
Middle or the last?
Middle.
Okay, I was always in the last.
Yeah, I assume so. That's why I get kicked out of
correct. That's
but I wouldn't say I was a goody two shoes, but teachers liked me.
Yeah.
Again, this is going to sound really arrogant or whatever, but I hope it doesn't. But like teachers liked me. I was what's the word I'm looking for? I did well. I wasn't always like top of the class, but I never really had huge issues, which is quite lucky because I know some people at school, especially when they're younger, like have problems. People just learn in different ways. But I was always okay. So I don't have this redemption arc that a lot of entrepreneurs online have of, I was kicked out of school. Like I had an amazing time at school.
So you liked school?
Yeah, I love school. I had some really good friends. Very lucky to have good friends there.
Yeah.
Took to like learning quite well.
Yeah.
Played in every sports team the school had pretty much, especially at primary school.
Nice.
So I even played netball at primary school. Do you have netball in Germany?
Netball? What's netball?
It's usually like a lot of girls play netball. You don't really get guys playing it.
Is it like...
it's like basketball, but you can't bounce it. You can't run with it. You have to pass it. And I don't know, you might call it something else. You probably have it in Germany under some other name. Anyway, guys don't usually play that, but I was like, sign me up. I want to play it because in primary school, if you're in a sports team, you got to miss some lessons and because you were practicing for, and it was justified then. So I was like, let's get me in any sports team you can.
I see what you mean.
So I played loads.
Maybe also because of the girls.
Our netball team was all boys, apart from one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So we...
that sounds a bit... continue.
So yeah, my primary school especially was amazing. I spent most of my later times there just playing sport, which is what I love. And then secondary school, continued to play sport there. But obviously you kind of grow up a little bit more. You kind of just go into different things too. But generally school life, I was never like the bad boy. Had it pretty good. And I loved school. And I was very lucky as well because I grew up in a part of England where my school was really nice. So you can have private schools in England, which is where you pay to go, and all the kids are very stereotypically quite posh, quite sheltered. I didn't go to one of those. I went to a public school, which anyone can go to.
Yeah.
So naturally there you get kind of extremes at both ends. You get rough people, but you also get some, the complete opposite end of that. But no one was like really rough. Like no one would bring like knives into school. No one was ever at threat. People got bullied, but like, I think it's important at that age to at least have that exposure because it's the real world, right? People, not everyone is completely sheltered and has this like amazing thing like you might get in a private school, but in terms of public schools, like mine was really good. Like I cannot complain.
Nice.
Always felt safe. Was always happy, and you have a few rough kids, but on the grand scheme of things, they weren't rough at all.
Okay. And did you study?
In terms of like uni? Yeah. So I went from.
Oh yeah, the thing is that actually in German you say like study for like it's automatically saying uni.
Yeah. So,
but I get like that's why you're confused when I say study, right? Course, because you're like, you mean uni? Yeah. So yeah, I mean university. Did you go to?
Yeah, so I went to university in Swansea, which is in Wales, so still part of the UK.
So you had to move?
Yeah, I had to move. Yeah,
so this was the first time you were leaving your.
First time I left home properly was for uni, but in England that's quite a normal thing. Again, I don't know if it's the same in Germany, but you get to like 18, you go to uni, people move out. And my brother had gone to Swansea too, so I'd been there a few times.
Okay.
But to be honest, I loved Swansea, but it wasn't necessarily out of choice. It's probably the best like mistake that happened to me. So in England, again, I'm not sure it's the same, but you put forward 2 universities that you want to go to. So I had like a really aspirational one, which was Southampton Uni.
Yeah.
And one which was a little bit lower. And so they essentially say, if you get A, in your exams, in terms of your results, you can get a place. And then, so I also went for a lower one, with slightly lower grades. And I was like, okay, one results day, let's see what I get. And then I can choose one of those 2.
Nice. You have A till F, right?
I don't even know, actually. No, you get...
Because we have numbers.
Yeah, F.
You know that, right?
F must be the bottom. We have numbers now in England, but...
Did it change? Like,
It's changed, I think, the year after me, or maybe the year after.
So I don't know. Okay, I didn't know. Okay.
So I didn't get the grades for Southampton, which is my top one. So I went, and I did get the ones for my second choice, but I didn't really want to go there. That was in Bristol. So I went through something called clearing, which is essentially, on results day, it's carnage. So on results day, every single unfilled place from unis almost gets put up on like not like an auction or bidding system, but everything's open, everything's like fair game. And then everyone who didn't get into their unis is just vying for all these spots.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just see, because I didn't do as well as I'd hoped to in my A levels, which is something we can go into more because it's a really important lesson for me. So by a very long story short, scrambling through clearing, Swansea had one. I was like, oh, my brother went to Swansea. I've been there. It's nice. Let's do it. And went to Swansea and ended up living in my first year with a flat of 18 boys. Full
18 boys.
Yeah.
Wait, can you describe this flat? Like,
Yeah.
The 18 boys.
So it was one kitchen, and it was
one shared kitchen for 18 boys, and you were all like 18.
You can imagine 18-year-old boys. So I feared the worst when I got it, because I was always in the mindset of like, at uni it'd be nice to have some friends who are girls, have some friends who are guys, have a mix. I was like, just 18 guys could be dangerous because it's just ego everywhere. You know how guys operate. But actually it was really good. But
many bathrooms?
Huh?
Bathrooms?
So we shared one between two. So there were 9 bathrooms. So I mean, it wasn't ideal, but it was fine. So the whole building was just 9 floors of 18. So every single floor was mixed, apart from the top floor, which was all girls, because it was like the nursing floor, and they were all girls who did nursing in this year. So for some reason they had to have an all boys floor. So we were the all boys floor. So
all right, brother,
we're back again.
We're back into it. So as you guys have probably noticed, we had the electricity cut off, but it was actually not this building here. It was the whole area.
Yeah,
like building a hotel or something.
Yes. They said the government turned everything off. Like imagine in, I don't know, Germany, but England, the government just turning off everyone's electricity so they can build a hotel is pretty wild. But it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, at least we keep it real. We probably, I don't know how we're going to edit it, but probably we're going to show something like how, because the cameras were still on.
Yeah.
So we're going to show a
little bit.
Yeah, we're going to show that. Let's see how we're going to do it. However, what I would like to do now is just directly jump back into it. You were just talking about your experience with your 18 boys experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Worded like that doesn't sound too good.
But maybe you can tell us more about it.
Yeah. So just kind of long story short, went to uni in Swansea in Wales, lived with 18 boys, if you pointed out again. I studied geography. So it was human geography, because I was always one of those people who, again, this is a little bit more familiar with entrepreneurs and sort of thing, like never wanted to have a standard kind of 9-to-5 job, but I also just didn't know what I wanted to do. So my brother growing up was always into cars, into fixing things. He was always going to be an engineer. He knew that was what he was going to do.
Okay, nice.
And then there was me, who I just never really had an idea. Like I loved sport growing up, but you realize when you're 10 years old, you're not going to become a professional footballer or professional whatever.
Of course, yeah.
So I never really knew what I wanted to do. So my goal at uni was just to be fair, just buy time, find myself for 3 years, 4 years, and hopefully by the time I was 22 when I'm leaving, have a bit more of an idea of what I want to do.
Okay.
And also do a degree that just keeps as many doors open as possible. So human geography was there's a bit of history in there, English, a bit of economics, loads of different things within it. So it just kept enough doors open. A good mix. Obviously, I was never going to be a doctor or a lawyer, specialist kind of jobs from it.
Yeah.
Kept enough doors open. So, did human geography at uni, and actually did what's called in England a placement year. So did my first 2 years at university, just classic studying. And then in my third year, you can apply to do a year in full-time work.
Okay.
And then you come back after that year and finish off your degree. So I wanted to do that because at least that then gave me a year of experience, and then went back to uni in my 4th year.
Okay.
During the COVID year, so that was interesting. And then graduated in.
But that was actually recent.
Yeah, so I graduated
in 2020.
In 2020, yeah.
Okay.
So we all went home in March. So we started obviously the year in September, and then March everyone gets sent home, and then just did all my final year exams from home, open book. You've got 3 days to do a 2-hour exam.
Yeah.
Like the most chilled thing in the world, which was very lucky.
I had the same experience in Germany also. Like COVID was blessed for me.
So good. The only issue was you missed out on like the social bit. So you missed out like your last night out with your friends.
Right. That was a fair trade for me.
I would have taken, it just made, my last year was easy really, because I had like a safety net, so you couldn't get below your average.
Yeah.
So I was chilling in my last year. So, but I did miss out on the social side, so you don't have it all.
Okay. So how long? Wait. So the whole studying for you,
Yeah.
How long was it in total now? Like, how many years are you talking about?
Started in September 2016 and would have graduated in June 2020. So 4 years. 4 years.
Okay.
So that's university though.
But I mean, obviously, that's maybe your parents are rich or something, but like you also have to work, right? Like you have to get some income in, you know.
As if like a side job.
So what was your let's talk about your first job actually.
Yeah.
Like what was your first ever making money by your own thing? Like what did you do?
I'm trying to think of the obvious one is my first job, but I'm trying to think if I did anything before that.
Selling lemonade on the street.
No, I never did that. I think that's more of an American thing.
Yeah. Wait.
No, I think my first job was just behind, say behind a bar, but it would have been in the kitchen in a pub in England. It's quite a common first job for like a 15-year-old. So I was 15 when I got my first job. I actually helped my brother and his friend. They had like a handyman business
Handyman.
So essentially they went around to local people in the village. This is the most Devon thing ever. Like knocking on their doors. Do you need us to like sort out your garden, do some gardening, cut your lawn, wash your windows, that sort of thing. So every now and then I would go and help them and work with them and just earn a little bit of money, £5, £10, whatever.
Crazy, yeah.
But as a kid, like that's so much.
Of course.
Because you have pretty much no overheads when you're really young.
You have to think about £5 back in the days was different than £5 now. You know
exactly,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like like we in Germany, we always calculate with kebab.
Right.
You know, like everything is like you have to do the currency exchange into kebab, you know. So right now you can see that basically Germany is going down because kebab is €10 now. Back when I was in school, bro, when I was like, let's say 10 or 12, kebab was €3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now it's €10.
We have the same in England with a chocolate called Freddo. Like it used to be like 10p for a Freddo, and now it's like £1 or something for a Freddo. And that's like the UK's like universal like inflation measure for how much Freddos are. But yeah, that would have been like 12, 13, so not a lot of money really, but for a 12-year-old, like anything is amazing. Of course. But then my first job was 15. My parents were really good because they never forced me into getting a job, but they kind of made me realize that, you know, if you want to have all these things that you want to have,
you need that.
100%. Yeah. I think either way of, you know, you have some kids who are just pushed into jobs really, really early, and you should be able to enjoy your childhood a little bit. But then you also get some kids whose parents just, you know, do everything for them, and they never have to have a job until they're like 19, 20. And you can see who those people are easily. Yeah. My parents are really good. They kind of made me realize, you know, as a 15-year-old, you'll have the things that you want, but if you want to buy yourself a new pair of football boots or something, you're going to have to spend your own money and work that way. So my first job was in the kitchen of a pub, washing up the plates. And that's crazy. I eventually moved to the promised lands of behind the bar, so started pouring pints and things for people there. I don't know actually if I was legally meant to be able to do that. I think you might have to be 18, but I definitely wasn't 18 when I did.
You were drinking?
No, wasn't drinking. At the pub.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, but like sometimes like sneaky behind the bar. Like
not at work. Obviously, you had like school parties and stuff that everyone did. That's just the done thing.
Yeah.
But I did a bit of work behind the bar, but I actually preferred being in the kitchen because for anyone who's done it, like you have quite a nice like relationship with everyone in there. You have a bit of fun. The music's on.
Nice.
And all I was doing was washing plates. I mean, it wasn't glamorous, but it was easy.
And easy money for you.
Exactly.
Days.
And I'd do a shift for like 6-7 hours. Yeah. Get paid.
On the end?
Cash in hand, yeah. So obviously I was not making enough to declare tax anyway, but yeah, you can see why now you're older, why they were doing it.
You finish a shift and then you get your money.
Yeah,
you're like 15 years old, like, oh shit, the world is mine now.
Yeah, I had £40 in this envelope and I was like, oh, so much money. And because obviously I had a car then, so I had to buy a car. Actually, no, I was very lucky. My grandma had a really old car that me and my brother just used. But obviously running a car, you have to have your insurance, your fuel, that sort of thing. So I'd always work on a Thursday, then sometimes on the Friday you have to put your fuel in, but then you've got your £40 in your envelope, you do that. So I loved it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like stuck to bar work throughout uni too. So I didn't work while I was at uni in terms of during the semesters or whatever, or anything like that. But I always worked. So in uni, you'd go home for summer for like 3 or 4 months. I just worked pretty much every day.
So while uni, you were not working at all?
No, it wasn't working during the uni times because I had a job that I came back and worked in the summer. And I just worked most days in the summer, but I used up a lot of money.
Okay.
And then that was my like spending money, because at uni in the UK too, you have your tuition loan. So you get a loan from the government or a company, and that pays for all of your tuition.
You have to pay it back,
of course. But you also have like a maintenance loan, which is like the money you live off. So you have your maintenance loan. Everyone has different level of loan.
Yeah.
But mine was a decent amount, but I wanted to have an extra bit of money that I could kind of spend on my own stuff I wanted to.
Okay.
And that's why I got a job. So I worked in the summer, built up some money, and then throughout the year spent that as well.
That's it. We're just talking about 2 jobs. Khalas. That's it.
2 like non-proper jobs beforehand.
Okay.
But I just worked in the kitchen for 4 years. So,
Okay.
Kitchen, and then
Quite a long time.
Quite a long time, yeah. But I loved it.
Yeah.
And for me, I was at work to just get money at that age. I wasn't really that bothered about anything else. Was I happy? Yes. Was it paying me? Yes. I didn't really care what I was doing. And the hours were quite flexible, and the people I worked for and with, I loved. So it was easy. Yeah. And then obviously in uni in my 3rd year, I had to do my placement year. Yeah. That was my proper like first like full-time job. But I had done work experience for like a week or a few days at loads of other places.
Okay.
More like traditional jobs, just to kind of get a flavor of what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What was the worst experience in terms of jobs you had when you think about it right now?
My worst job? I think it's never actually
usually the people you have,
100%.
right? Well, it's not the job itself. It's actually the people, how they
physical
treat
thing is fine.
Correct.
You just do whatever.
Correct.
But if you're working with bad people, or your manager is always on you, forgets that you're like a 16-year-old, like I have no passion for washing plates.
Yeah.
I just want to get my money. I understand it's your business, but as long as I'm not doing anything stupid, like, come on, just chill out. But anyway, I had a really bad boss at one of my jobs, and I just hated it. And I just was like, I'm not gonna do that. You're getting paid like £6 an hour back then.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid enough to be treated like she was treating us. So again, she was fine, but just so rude and just didn't get it. So I just like, you know what, go back to where I used to work, and I just loved it there. So, but I also worked in a clothes shop after my kind of pub days. So in my 2nd year at uni, rather than coming home for summer and working in the pub, I worked in a clothes shop in England, which was a completely different experience, because all of a sudden you go from being in the kitchen, where it's just you and, you know, the people you're working with.
Yeah.
It's like a customer-facing job, so you're seeing customers, so it's a very different job.
First interaction with customers for you, or like?
Well, when I was working in the pubs, I would go and serve food, but there's not really that much of an interaction. Yeah. But then people would come in and ask you questions. Oh, have you got this? Can you do this? Whatever. So that was my first real interaction with working with customers. So I think it's good when you're growing up to do jobs that, you know, A, aren't that glorious, and B, have a balance of the two. The kitchen one was more just like graft, hard work, get it done, get out.
Yeah.
The stuff in the shop was more about the social side, speaking with customers, how you communicate.
Yeah.
And sometimes having to bite your tongue because some of them were just so rude, but you just have to,
of course,
get your head down.
That's also something you have to learn.
Yeah. Again, it's a lesson. You learn that through doing stuff.
Correct. All right, and then I would say let's use this to jump into your current business, right? I think you have a really, really interesting. I know a bit. I don't know everything. Mm-hmm. Let's start with what was your first touch point with this business you are doing right now? And obviously, how did you learn? Like, did you just use YouTube? Did you actually, did you buy a course, Things like this, I want to know it.
All the detail.
And obviously also the business model.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'll start with a little bit before that. So at uni, you have a lot of free time. You have your lectures, and uni students love to complain about how much work they've got on.
That's why I love uni.
You have so much time in uni, really.
It's all about that. That's also something for all the listeners, because there's probably some people,
of course,
watching who are in uni right now.
Yeah.
And I think this is also something I find really interesting, because many young, especially men, they think okay, uni, I have a lot of free time, so I can use it to play, I don't know, Fortnite or whatever, just waste your life. But to be fair, because I used uni to basically do what I'm doing right now, to gain a lot of experience in the internet, to actually make money, because the internet, so many opportunities, right? Besides just playing Fortnite. So that's something I when I look back into my university and I talk with all my let's call them classmates or whatever, none of them was actually working on themselves. You know, like everyone was just like, yeah, maybe they had a side job as you, like working in the bar or something like this, right? Or they were, playing games. You know, they were like, hey, yesterday, Call of Duty, this and this and this. You know, like, but like, I was always questioning myself, like, why don't you just use the time we have? We have so much time. We're jobless. So why don't you use the time to build something, you know? But yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, so it was that time in uni where the penny drops. I was like, oh, actually, like this, I kind of I would love to have my own business. I think that would be so cool, especially at uni where you think, okay, after this, I'm going to have to go into the real world and get a job. I didn't want to do that. So I was like, okay, well, if I don't want to do that.
Why do you think you were thinking like that? Because not everyone is thinking like that.
I just hate the idea. I'm not the only one. A lot of people share this. It's just, there's so much more. I don't want to sound cliche, but there's so much more to life than just getting up and just going to work in a job that, you know, you don't necessarily have to hate it, but you're okay. You come home, you cash your check, whatever. Like, there is just so much more to doing that. And especially having built my own business now and experienced the other side, there's no way I could ever go back to something like that.
Of course.
Hopefully I won't have to.
I think I sent you the reel yesterday, right? And like, I think, no, wait, did you send it to me? Like, our worst case scenario is for other people the plan A.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
Like,
yeah,
when my business goes wrong,
yeah,
my worst case scenario is I have to actually work 9 to 5.
Exactly.
For other people, that's actually a normal thing. You know?
Yeah, and some people love working 9 to 5s, and like,
and I think we need those people.
I think a lot of
need those people.
A lot of people online, especially like this hustle entrepreneur culture, will be like, oh, you're a brokey or you have to do whatever. If you work a 9 to 5, like if you enjoy that, like do it. I wish I loved that because my brother has a job working in engineering. He loves it. He's loved cars. He works with cars every day. Like, I really envy that because I wish I had that in terms of like a normal job.
Yeah.
But I just don't have that. So I've always wanted to build my own thing.
Yeah.
So just looked online, the classic Google, how to make money online, what's out there.
Did you actually type it into Google, how to make money online?
Sure, I have at some point. Yeah. And tried a couple of things. So I tried, I had a YouTube channel, not the one I have now, but a different one where I would upload. So I went for the approach of like reverse engineering what's working and then put your own spin on it. So back in the day, and copyright is just like rife with it now, but you would upload like songs and you have the lyrics of the songs on there. Now like they have like official lyric videos. Way back then, they didn't have that. So I was like, football chant. I love football. Football chants like a huge part of football.
Yeah.
Let's do like lyrics to football chants because people always like look up lyrics to football chants. So I would literally download an MP3 file of a football chant, put like a picture of something on screen, and then just put the lyrics on top, and then just upload those. And I was like, let me just do that. And
how did it go? Actually,
I was monetized.
Yeah, no, you actually made money with it.
Yeah. So the only problem was I didn't understand YouTube at all. So the videos were like 30 or 40 seconds long. So for anyone who knows YouTube, you get like a CPM and an RPM number.
Yep.
Which is basically how much you get paid per 1,000 views. If your video is like 40 seconds, it's not going to be great because, I mean, sure, YouTube gurus will probably pick me up somewhere here, but generally not going to be great because it's not a very long video. You don't get that many ads in it.
Yeah.
And also it was football content. You don't get paid that much for that. But I was monetized. I had some videos do 6-figure views. So over 100,000 views.
Swear down.
And I loved it. I was just like, like I would make maybe £30 a month. So not a lot from it, but I didn't really do that much. But
it's about that it's like something is working.
Yeah, so I did that
right.
I started that in 2015.
2015 or what?
Before uni.
Wait, you were old?
17.
That's crazy.
Yeah, okay. But I didn't really do anything with it. And then uni, I was like, I may as well spend some time.
But I think it's just the thing that you understand, like, hey, I can actually do money.
Yeah, and
it's not about the how much. It's just like something works.
I had made money online, and it just
and it's cool.
So cool,
right? If you tell someone, obviously you don't tell them like how much you do. Like, by the way, I'm doing money on this.
Yeah.
In the internet.
But like, I'd made a little bit of money. And I was loving it.
Yeah.
And but like, it's not that scalable, and there's definitely some kind of copyright in there that I'm probably breaking. But that was my first real taste of making money online. Okay. I then moved into, obviously, drop shipping is the buzzword when you just type in how to make money online.
I also did that.
But I knew that wasn't really a thing for me.
Yeah.
Especially with the knowledge I had then. So I started doing like print on demand t-shirts. So like designs on t-shirts. Again, pretty much just as classic as drop shipping.
Yeah.
That didn't work. And then, but I was always looking for something. So I feel like a lot of people now be like, oh, how did you, I'll touch on what I do now, Amazon KDP. How did you get onto Amazon KDP? Oh, you're lucky to have come across that. But like, I feel like you put yourselves in a position to be lucky to find things. I would have found something. If it wasn't KDP, it would have been something else.
Yeah.
And after KDP, it will be something else. You have to just put yourself in situations where you get lucky. Increase your odds of getting lucky.
I like
basically.
that.
So that's what I did. And then, so my final year at uni, so the year before that was my placement year. So I worked full-time, had a taste of the 9-to-5 life. And I worked in a really good place. So it was a place called Gymshark, which is a gym clothing
I know
brand.
Gymshark.
Yeah, they're quite big now. And really nice office. You could wear what you wanted to work. So it really wasn't a classic 9-to-5.
Yeah.
As far as 9-to-5s go, it was pretty good. You had really good food, cinema screen, whatever.
Nice.
But I got back to uni after that and I was like, that is as pretty much as good as it gets in terms of 9-to-5s. And I still wasn't happy with that. I was like, I want more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm also quite lucky that my friendship group was quite entrepreneurial as well. So we were all just trying to get into...
That's important, man.
Yeah, of course. So one of my friends had done, and this is how I got into Amazon KDP, had done a property flipping course or something like that in person. And he met a guy there. And that guy eventually messaged him like 6 months later saying, I've just started this thing called Amazon KDP. I've got a free course. Do you want to check it out? He checked it out and he was like, oh, Sam and all my mates, like, this guy's making money by selling books online.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give it a go. Let's see. And my initial reaction was actually...
Did you do it with this guy or alone?
No, I didn't do it at all. So he did it. He did it himself. And then my other friend did it himself too.
Okay.
And they just done it. So probably explain what it is now before I go into any more details.
Yeah, let's talk about the business model.
Amazon KDP stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. So what we're doing essentially, in a nutshell, is creating online versions of books that get printed on demand. So I'll only upload 2 files, a PDF of the book cover and the book interior. That gets uploaded to Amazon. I'll set a price, do all the description, that sort of thing, the keywords. And then when you go ahead and buy it, Amazon will then print it, send it off to the customer. I don't touch anything. And then I'll just take a cut of the sale price. So for a £6.99 book, I now get £2, but back then it was £2.50. And I take my cut. So really passive.
Give me you were giving me a nice example when you first described me the business model back in the days.
Yeah.
The one with the washing Ukraine war with the square foot gardening.
Yeah. So again, the first question people ask you when you do KDP is, oh, so you must be an author.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The whole point of KDP is you can run it as an author. There are some authors who their dream is to self-publish their own book and they can do it that way. But the vast majority of people who do it successfully treat it as a business. So you just produce the books that the market wants. So you can produce anything from, like you say, square foot gardening to a football book to a children's novel or whatever. I kind of focus on something called medium content publishing, which we can touch on later on.
Yeah.
But you can essentially create anything. And the key thing is you're creating what the market wants, not what you want. But anyway, going right back to the start with my friends. So they'd done it and I said, you know what, I'm not interested in this. Like, I hate books. And it was my birthday in October and they came up to my uni to celebrate my birthday and they'd started this for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And they'd made it was the Rugby World Cup was on and they'd made a book around the Rugby World Cup, like a really terrible notebook. They're just making notebooks at this point.
Okay.
And my mate was like, I've just sold 5 of these books. And he made, like £10 or something. And by the end of the day, he'd made like 30 quid. And I was like, this guy's been sat in a pub with me all day. I've made nothing and he's made £30. And like he'll say himself, the books were terrible, so bad. I was like, I need to get on this. So it was that point where I was like, okay, let's do it now at uni. And then and again, luckily as a group, we were all just hustling. We all had our own accounts and we'd jump on like Skype calls or like Facebook video calls at like 9 p.m. and we just grind until like 2, 3 a.m. just uploading as many of these like rubbish notebooks as we possibly could. Because back then in KDP, that's what you did. Just lined template you download from online.
Yeah.
And you just upload like a funny or cringy kind of front cover.
Yeah.
Stick that online and then see if it sells.
But like, were you learning from your friends or from the course he was mentioning?
A bit of everything. So again, back then, now I have my own KDP coaching now, but back then there was pretty much nothing. So everything I've learned from KDP, aside from that free course, I've pretty much been self-taught through videos on YouTube that have gradually come up over time. But also the vast majority for me has come from just trial and error.
Learning by doing.
Yeah, learning by doing, which is extremely inefficient.
Of course.
But when there's no real alternative, like it's kind of the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And it puts me in a good position now because I've made all of the mistakes that someone who's going to start doing it today will eventually make if they don't have the guidance from someone that's done it. It was long, made so many mistakes, wasted hours and hours, but I think that's, for me as well, that's how I learned the best.
Yeah.
Doing something, getting it wrong. Okay, why did it go wrong? Next time, let's not do that. Oh, this went a bit better. Why did it go better? And just slowly you build up this picture of exactly what works. And that's kind of how I got into it and how I learned, basically.
Yeah. And when was the how can I say, like, you actually made a decision like, okay, now I'm going all in?
So this is a complicated answer.
Okay.
So I started in October 2019, and KDP is very cyclical. So you have your lower months, January, February, but you have your big months, which are November and December.
Because of Christmas?
Christmas, yeah.
Events.
And I think it's just general in business. People have less money in January because they're spending Christmas. But coming up to Christmas, it's like this big boost. But we didn't know that. So my first month on KDP, I made £1.89. I sold one book. I was like, internet money though is great. It's the best £1.89 I've ever made. But then month 3 was December, and I made 1,200 and something pounds. And I was like, I've made it. Month 3, £1,200. What's month 10 going to be?
Shit.
20,000, 30,000.
Nice.
But we didn't realize.
Listen, I'm going to give you $1,000. Yep. You heard that right. And here's how you can grab it. Just create clips you enjoyed from the podcast. Upload it to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And for every video you reshare that gets 1 million views, I will give you $1,000. But hey, there's more. Every month, the most clicked clip creator will back $500 on top. Please just don't forget the magic hashtag #TalkAndDo on all your posts. That's your entry ticket into this competition. It is time to turn your creativity into cash. Good luck.
Oh, my friends had the same kind of results too. We were like, this is so easy. Like,
why no one knows
we're gonna be millionaires in 5 months. Like, no one knows this. And then January hits when this massive spike dies down, and we're back to making like £20 a month. I mean,
yeah,
it was good while it lasted. But for me, that was really important because that was like the tease for me. I was like, you can actually do this. Like, although that's kind of a spike,
yeah,
it shows that it's possible. Whereas if I hadn't had that and I'd started in maybe February and I was making £1, £2, £3, I'd probably been like, this just doesn't work. But I had a taste of what it could potentially be.
Yeah.
So at that point I was like, okay, let's just build this. And then it came to COVID. So I was just doing notebooks. And I remember at uni, people would laugh because everyone was getting ready for pre-drinks, ready to go out. And I'd be sat on my laptop in the lounge, just like churning out a few more books. Let me just do a few more of these books. And they'd look at them, and rightly so, they'd be like, what is that? Like, because they were awful books. But I knew they made money, and I was like, they're making money. And then I'd go on the night out, refresh my sales page. I've made like £3. The drink I've just bought, I was just paid for, which I thought was really cool. Like, I loved that.
Yeah.
So I just kind of plodded along with it, and then went home for COVID. So everyone went home from uni. Ended up being obviously like 5 or 6 months. And because I had this safety net from my uni, I didn't really have to do that much uni work. So I just had time. I was like, I've got nothing else to do. And I'm such a routine-driven person. And also I can't do nothing. Like,
that's good.
Some people love the idea of COVID, of coming home, sitting on their ass, watching Netflix all day. I just can't do that. I get so bored.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I should be doing something better. So I was like, well, while I'm here, I've got all the time in the world. I've got this business that's making like £100 a month, maybe. Let's just keep doing this and just see where I can take it. And it was at that point where I started moving from just like notebooks to slightly higher content stuff. So I made a crossword book, which was a little bit more technical than just a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me just put this up and see how this does. And then within 2 months, that became my best-selling book. And I was like, another penny's dropped here. most people are doing notebooks. Let's start making like higher content stuff. Still very basic, but it was more than just a blank notebook.
Yeah.
So March until like August time, I just did that. But I was interestingly meant to go back to Gymshark in the July of 2020. So they offered me a contract as soon as I left. They're like, after uni, come back to Gymshark, it's fine. You have a job, which I was like, of course, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
No pressure of applying for jobs. In my final year, I had that. So I had that. And it was like 22,000 a year was the job, which out of uni is good.
It's all right.
And I was meant to go back there in July. But I was making like 150, 200 pounds by this point in like June sort of time from my book business. I was like, that's what I want to be doing. So I actually phoned up Gymshark, my manager, and was like, by the way, I'm not going to take this job. Well, I'd already taken it. I was like, I'm going to cancel my contract. Because I'm going to.
How did you feel that?
Do something
like,
else.
Like that, exactly this.
So excited. My parents.
You felt good.
So good. It was never a doubt in my mind.
Okay.
My parents, obviously, you don't really know what I was doing with the KDP stuff. They knew I was trying it, but completely understandably, when their son's like, oh yeah, I'm making £200 a month, I'm going to do this. And they're like, well, you've got this job that's secure and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They were obviously going to be a bit concerned.
Of course.
But never were like, you have to do this, you have to do this. They always kind of have trusted me, which I'm so lucky for, because I know not everyone has that.
Yeah.
But they also made me aware of, it could potentially be a risk, but we'll see.
But the thing is, when you're so young, there's nothing you are scared. Like you can be scared of,
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing you actually really risk. Because that time you were still living with your parents, I assume?
I was living at uni, but I had to come home from uni. So at that point, I was living with my parents.
Actually, you're safe. There's nothing.
I had no overheads, really. My car, fuel.
So you actually have, like, you made it, like, perfect, Like, you actually use that because there's no risk.
Yeah. So I decided to turn that down, and they were like, okay, well, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I'm going to move out, because I was 22, maybe 21. I love my parents, but I lived with them for 6 months, and I was like, I can't just live at home as a 21, 22-year-old. I want to leave. So me and my other friend, who was also doing the same business, were like, let's move to Cardiff, place in Wales. So just down the road from where I went to uni. It's super cheap. It was like maybe £400 each a month for rent, plus bills. We were like, let's try and live off like £1,000 a month. So I was making 200 from my business.
Yeah.
So I've got 800 I need to make up just like to get by. And people always ask, why you just stay at home and build your business then? But I just wanted to have my own freedom. Obviously, if you want to have that, you have to pay for it, and it's going to cost more. But it was important for me because it kind of put myself in the deep end. I was like, let me just throw myself in there, and it's going to force me to work. And me and my friend Kieran would literally work pretty much all day, every day, just churning out as many books as we possibly could because we saw the potential in it.
Yeah. So you did the business together from that point?
No, both had our own separate accounts.
Okay.
Which is going to come back to bite me later in my story.
Yeah.
But we didn't know at the time anyway, so we both just churned these out and and I was in this idea of, hustle culture is massive online, and until you've actually like had your own business, I don't think you really understand it.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just work 10 hours a day. Like, if I want to get rich, if I want to be successful, you have to work.
I like that.
We did.
Yeah.
And I liked it at the time, but I
burnt... What a mindset with 21. Yeah. That's crazy.
But I burnt out so badly. This is where the story gets a little bit interesting, because I completely burnt out, and I actually was in the worst point of my life there, because I just completely lost sight of everything.
Yeah.
So all the friends I got close to during COVID. Again, we had like lockdowns and isolation, so you weren't naturally going out and seeing that many people anyway. And like, I used to play Xbox with my friends, more of like a social thing. Like, you'd all jump on and 4 or 5 of us would just be chatting all night. Yeah. I sold my Xbox. I was like, nah, I'm productive, focus on the business. But I realized that all of a sudden I was only really speaking to my mate Kieran, who I lived with, and I was just working all day. And I
girls at that point, like,
I had a girlfriend at that point.
Okay.
But we ended up breaking up too, in exactly the same kind of time. And I was just I was so laser focused on what I wanted to do, which I think is a good thing, but there's definitely balance to be had. And I just completely burnt out, and I got into a really bad state where I quit the whole business altogether. I was having breakdowns. I cried on the phone to my mum for like 2 or 3 weeks straight as a 21, 22-year-old guy.
Yeah.
I hadn't cried to my mum since I was like so young as a kid.
Okay.
And it felt so weird. And I was like, something is like really wrong with me here. I won't be able to do it justice because it was more than just burnout, but
yeah,
it was a really, really bad spot. And I know it's all relative. Like I didn't have anything really that bad, but to me, I was just completely out. So I decided like I can't face doing this KDP stuff anymore because it was just ruining me. Because I was also working a part-time job as a phone salesman just to make the bills meet, because £200, £1,000 to live, need to fill that somehow. Had a sales job, which was I absolutely hated.
What did you sell?
Websites for people.
Okay.
So trying to cold call people to sell 2,000 plus websites during a pandemic when no business has any money, it's quite difficult. It's quite a difficult job. So I absolutely hated it. So at that point, I even hated my KDP because I just worked way too hard on it.
Yeah.
So I hated everything that I was doing there. So ended up, and again, it's a really important thing, I think, ended up speaking to a therapist who basically just like broke everything down for me and was like, you know, what's going on with your life? I won't go into detail there, but essentially after that, I was like, okay, well, I'll quit KDP because it's so bad for me. It's not giving me any fulfillment. I just need to get some structure back in my life, which for someone who now does KDP full time is quite a surprise to people to hear that I actually quit and went back to a 9-to-5. So went back to Gymshark and was like, you know, I know I've turned this offer down. Can I come back and maybe work for you? And I was so lucky that they had me back. So I went, left Cardiff, was only there for like 6 months, ended the contract early, moved to Birmingham, which is where Gymshark was. And that was it. I'd quit. I tried the business, tried the hustle life, quit.
What year were you in?
5. This is early 2021.
You're literally talking about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I quit. I went back to Gymshark, you know, got my wage. I'm secure. Go to work, come home, do what I want.
You felt better?
I felt amazing. Yeah, okay. I just felt so much pressure off me. And it was just kind of like I needed a few months just to reset everything.
Yeah.
And then I also couldn't bear the thought of even thinking about KDP at all. So my Twitter account, which I have now, have a good following on there. Mm-hmm. I had that, left it completely for like 6 or 7 months, didn't publish a single book. And then it came like 6, 7 months later and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start looking into this again. But I was still speaking to that therapist at the time. And I was like, I'm thinking about going back into KDP. Like, what do you think? Because that was a huge trigger for me of like, well, I was in a really bad spot, amongst many other things. But she was like, well, if you're going to do it, you have to do something differently. Because if you're going to do the same thing, you're going to end up in the same place. You're going to just work.
Okay.
And also you've got this job now that you have to balance with. You can't just work 10 hours because you're spending most of your day at Gymshark. Of course. And this is a really important lesson that I preach to everyone who I coach or come to me for advice is if you have a 9-to-5, it can be a good thing if you're trying to start a business. They get so much hate because, you know, the opposite of entrepreneurialism, whatever is entrepreneurship, is 9-to-5. You must hate the 9-to-5s, all this, that, and the other. But for me, like my 9-to-5 gave me X amount of money. I lived off that and I still had some money coming in from the KDP sales because my books were live. Like they were still making me money. But I wasn't making any new ones, which again is a really good thing about Amazon KDP. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to work much less hours and just be strategic with how I'm doing it. So I started running it more as a business than as like a blindly just work all day, every day. Yeah. So I lived off my Gymshark money.
Okay.
And every penny I made from my KDP was reinvested back out into freelancers, into ads, just outsourcing all the things that really caused me kind of like a brain fog and like I struggled with.
Yeah.
Take all that off my plate. And I couldn't believe at that point how much my business then started to scale because all of a sudden I had best of both worlds. I had no pressure having to work 10 hours a day to make money just to live off because I had my income from Gymshark, which I think was a big problem as why I got to a bad stage was because I was living off money that I didn't have. I didn't have enough money to live off it. So I was constantly having to work for it, which I know is a very common thing. But I think I throw myself a bit too much into the deep end at that point. Yeah. But now I had an income that was secure, was fine, and everything get reinvested. So I worked at Gymshark for about 1.5 years, and then it got to December 2022. Again, for that year, I just spent working at Gymshark, outsourcing most things on the KDP side, new books, keep selling, more money made, reinvest that back in, operating like an actual business. And then it got to December 2022, happy at my job, and one book from my KDP business sold 5 times my monthly wage at Gymshark. So one book, a single book. And I was like, at this point, I was like, you know what? Like, I should probably do this full time and give it a bit more attention, because I wasn't really giving it that much attention. I was just running it as like, you know, invest some stuff. And I was like, I kind of can't not. It makes no sense not to do it. So I then handed my notice in, had 3 months notice period at Gymshark, and was like, I'm going to do it full time again, which for me was quite scary because A, I'm dropping a secure job, had friends that I was really close to, and going back into this thing which had previously just caused me so much problem, so many problems. But I was like, if I run it differently, like maybe I'll get a different result, but it was still unknown. And left Gymshark in April 2023. I made 5 times my Gymshark wage in December 2021. And then became full-time April 2022, and then been running it full-time ever since then. And here we are. Came crawling back to KDP.
That's actually I think that's a really not only inspirational story, also like I think it's a good learning for a lot of people out there, especially for the young man. Before we jump into Bali, I wanna just ask one question, okay? Maybe you don't remember, but when was the first time you heard about Bali? Was it just an Instagram reel, or like and then what actually made you coming to Bali? You know, like,
I think it must have been an Instagram or a YouTube video or something. I don't know.
And what was your imagination? Like, what were you thinking about Bali then?
Well, because you hear Bali, you think digital nomad, like those two things. These days, maybe a little bit less, but back then that's what I mean, because their place was digital nomads. Yeah. So my friend Kieran, the same guy who I live with in Cardiff, still doing his KDP business too. And we were like, let's just both go to Bali. Like, we were making enough to live off that. Like, let's just do it.
Nice.
So we did that, went to Bali for 4 months, came back home, lived not at home with my parents, but lived very close in a flat in my local, or my closest city, which was Plymouth.
Yeah.
And hated that. I was like, Plymouth is nice, but there's not enough going on. I want to live in Manchester. Again, that dream of coming full circle, being a United fan. I have family in Manchester too, so we would regularly go up. I loved the city. I was like, let's just try living in Manchester.
Okay.
And it was that point that I moved and lived in with one of my cousins for a month, just to see what it was like. And then came back to Bali again, which is when I met you. And then once I was back from Bali...
Last year, by the way.
Last year, 2023.
It was last year, right? Yeah.
Spent summer in Devon and then moved up to Manchester. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to live in Manchester now full time.
I want to understand this. So the first time you went to Bali 4 months with your friend, right? After you went back home to England, there was not a single thought of like, hey, actually I could move like to Bali.
There kind of was, but it wasn't that much of a burning because I've been away for 4 months. So it was the longest I'd been away. I mean, you're away for uni, but you're still close.
Yeah,
the other side of the world for 4 months,
of course.
And I was like, so it was 2 months in Bali, 2 months in Thailand. I was like, I actually quite like being home. It's quite nice.
So the idea of Manchester was nicer than the idea of Bali, actually.
Yeah, I think at that time, yeah. But then after like a few months, like you just reset again. You're like, actually, like, this is just nowhere near as good as Bali was.
And then what made you coming back to Bali the second time?
Again, as you could probably tell, quite indecisive. I'm never really sure what I wanted from where I wanted to be. I think a great
so Manchester itself was not like, okay, now I arrived. It was not like this.
I loved it in Manchester, but like, this is the problem with having I'm gonna pour me. It's a good problem to have, but like, you have so much freedom.
Yeah.
So you're somewhere and you're like, maybe I could be somewhere better. Like, I'm in Bali now, or maybe I could be like, a lot of people. I hate the idea of Dubai, but some people are like, maybe I'll go to Dubai.
Yeah, so I was in England.
Yeah, it's like you.
I love Dubai.
So I was in Manchester and I was happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy in Manchester, but in the back of my head I was like, Sam, Bali's there. Like, you're lucky. You're like, people have 9 to 5s and they work in Manchester, they live in Manchester. You can go anywhere. Like, why don't you go to Bali? So I always had that in the back of my head.
Okay.
And I and now I'm here. 100% the right call. But it definitely took a few times coming here and be like, is this actually what I want?
Yeah, I want to understand the process, because for everyone,
I don't think there really was one.
For everyone, it's different,
Yeah.
For me, it was the universe. Is another story. I didn't decide that to live here. I had it in my head, but I really never like, okay, now I'm gonna move to Bali. It just happened. But like, so when you actually entered the plane second time coming to Bali,
The time I met you.
The time you met me, still there was not like a single thought of like actually moved. You just went here, just like vacation. It was nice, or
yeah, because that time I went solo. First time was with my friend, so I didn't really force to meet that many people. Second time was solo. By the way, completely different experiences. Love my mate. Like, we had a great time together, but I think going solo forces you to meet more people.
Yeah.
But obviously, as a first timer, I'm not proud to say it. Came to Canggu, the classic Canggu life. Old man's sandbar, hostels. You know the life. Not very. I was still working, doing work on the side, but I wasn't working like I am now.
Yeah.
I was in the crowd of people here for 2 weeks.
So we're just living your life.
What most people would be like living your life. Because I remember I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
Like, I was doing it because I was meeting people. And that was the main thing for me, just to meet people and just see where it goes.
Okay. But that's probably also because you went alone,
Yeah, of course.
It's a whole different experience. But, okay, so we are second time Bali in right now.
Yeah.
There was until, how many months was it?
3 months that time.
3 months.
Yeah.
Then
I met you in the third month.
Yeah. I remember that was kind of the end from your trip.
Yeah.
You went back home, and what happened then?
No, so I'm back home to Devon, spend the summer in Devon.
Okay.
Well, a month and a half in Devon, and then moved to Manchester.
Okay.
So I was like, let's live in Manchester. I had 2 different cousins there. So I had people there that I knew, and I'd lived there for a month beforehand, so I knew a few other people. But I was like, I've got no one to live with. So went on this website called Spare Room, where basically you're like, I want to live in Manchester. Who else wants to live there? Let's buddy up and find a flat. Okay. So I did that while I was still in Bali.
Yeah.
And found 2 guys, John and Dan. We actually ended up getting on really well. Shout out to John and Dan, yeah. And we went like a WhatsApp group, just kind of like sussing. Like, I think it's good to just kind of work out kind of can I live with these people or not.
Yeah.
And we were all very, very similar.
Yeah.
So we moved into a flat in Manchester.
Yeah.
Flats go so quickly there. So none of us could even view the flat because I was in Bali. John's from Scotland. He was in Scotland, and Dan was working all day.
Okay.
So we signed up to a house. So I moved into a flat in Manchester that I'd never seen with 2 people I'd never met. They'd met each other because they had a quick meetup while I was in Bali.
Okay.
But I moved into a place, like I say, never seen before.
Yeah.
With 2 people who I'd never met before.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, what made you come back to Bali? Like, I feel I'm a little bit indecisive, but I would call it like, I don't really like taking huge risks, but I like taking kind of calculated risks. So try things out and be like, actually, like a bit of a risk still, but I'm happy to do that. And that was another one. So I'd spoken to them. I was like, like they seem pretty nice. They're fine. I'm happy to take that risk at that point, rather than just blindly being like, let's just move anywhere in Manchester with anyone.
Yeah.
A calculated risk, which I think is quite important. So I lived with them in June until I came back out to Bali in February this year.
Why?
And that third time I was like, this is where I want to be. Because at that point, I surrounded myself with much more like-minded people like yourself who I didn't go there. I wasn't there to party. I was there to build my business, live a healthy lifestyle. People who are into the gym, people who are into business, just that kind of thing, just self-care. Surrounded myself with those kinds of people rather than the classic Canggu old man's type.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so much better than when I was last here. I'm 100% going to come back.
Okay.
So I think it's not just the place you go to, it's the crowd you hang around with as well.
Absolutely.
But that is your responsibility.
Correct.
It's my fault that I was with the wrong crowd. Like, really good friends there, but they weren't doing the same thing that I wanted to do. So you're responsible for who you spend your time with, and that has a huge impact, I think. So within a few weeks of being back in Bali that time, I was like, that's it. I'm going to come back here and just commit. So put my room back on Spare Room. Someone else is going to take it. Yeah. They move in. I come back out to Bali.
Perfect.
And I'm living with you and Joseph now.
Yeah.
2 very like-minded people who align with my goals. Everything that I want to do, you're the same. It just becomes like life is so easy now. Like, we work really hard, but it's easy to work hard.
Yeah.
And that's like where I've wanted to be for so long.
It's all about the environment.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But it's taken me a while to realize that that's exactly what I want.
Of course. What's the same for me? Same for me.
Of course, yeah.
You know, the beginning of Bali, as you said, samba every day.
Everyone does it, yeah.
And I actually didn't like it, but I still did it, you know.
Yeah.
But
because you speak to someone who's in Canggu, and if that first person you speak to is the wrong person, you ask them, what is there to do? Oh, Luigi's on a Monday, sandbar, old man's, then you go samba after. They go
every day,
whatever day,
you know.
And you're like, oh, that's just what people do. It's not. You meet the people who
correct.
And I think a really important lesson too, for anyone who's a similar kind of mindset and wants to come out traveling, is spend your time in areas where people like you are going to be. So if you're at hostels, everyone there is so temporary. Everyone's only there for 4 days, 5 days. Maximum like a week. Who spends more than a week in a hostel realistically? But in gyms, people sign up for a gym for at least a month. Co-working spaces, they're there for at least a month.
Correct.
So all of a sudden, all these people are here long term rather than these temporary party goers. So like in the gym, you're going to be so much more likely to meet the right person. In a co-working space is the same. So just be not strategic, but just think about the sort of people you're going to meet at these places.
You can choose your path by choosing your environment.
100%. Yeah.
Right? That's I totally agree. That's also literally the same thing what happened to me. For me, it took a tiny bit longer to understand that Bali basically has like 2 sides. You know, you have the party side, as we already talked about it. You can party every day, but you also have the for me, Bali is a cheat code.
Bali's so great because, again, working is easy because people around me are doing the same thing. Yep. Laundry is done for you. It's ironed, it's washed, it's £2. Every single bit of food you eat is delivered. You don't cook, you don't wash up. And those things for me they might sound like small things, but they just make my life so easy. Like, life is easy out here. So I can spend all my energy like focusing on the stuff I want to do, which I think is so underrated about something like this. And, even if you're spending £6, £7 on a food delivery or whatever, like, I'm happy to do that because it makes my life so easy.
Of course.
And I know that's a fortunate position to be in because not everyone can do that.
Absolutely.
But you have to earn your right to be able to do that. I haven't been able to do that forever. Yeah. But once you can, just optimize for simplicity, and it makes life so much easier. Yeah. Like, we have a cleaner who comes in every 2 or 3 days. Yeah. Bedrooms are cleaned that regularly. Yeah.
Also stupid costs, right? Like no car, for example. Everything is 5 minutes away, right? Like gym 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant 5 minutes. The beach 5 minutes.
And the crazy thing with Bali is taxis too. Yeah. You can get a taxi, or you traditionally, for people who haven't been to Bali, you get scooters or grab bikes. It costs like £1 to get 15, 20 minutes away. If you get in a car, maybe like £5. In England, that £5 journey is like £30, £40. Yeah. Getting around is so easy, but then you obviously just usually have your own bike. Everything is so simple, which is worth more to me than anything else. Like, I would rather have that than live in a skyscraper in Dubai and do all these things. For me, like, as long as my life is just like simple, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Bali is the best place for that. Like I say, it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code.
It's a cheat code. Absolutely. Any futures, like any projects, like I don't know, not only your business, also like for your life, like how long? I don't know. Also, like, what are you thinking of? Like, how long you actually want to live in Bali?
It's a hard question because you probably worked out by now. Constantly changing my mind about where I want to be. For now, I'm happy here. Again, I just want to be somewhere where allows me to focus on the main things that I want to focus on. So for my priorities right now are like the gym, fitness, and just generally looking after myself, but like physically and mentally.
Yes.
And then also the business side.
Yeah.
Bali allows me to do that probably better than anywhere else in the world I've been so far. I'm sure there's some other great places, but Bali ticks everything I need, so I don't feel like I need to leave or anything like that. So I'm happy with that. And that's kind of why I'm here. They're my 2 main goals, and just gonna stay here and as long as I'm happy building towards both of those.
Yeah. And future projects for your work, actually, like for your job?
Yeah, so work now. So I do, my KDP is still a thing, but it comes to the point now where it's optimized. It's a lot of it is outsourced. I just spend a lot of my time just doing like the high value stuff. So with KDP, that's keyword research and niche research. Essentially, two main things: making sure you're making a book that customers want, and then once you've done that, make sure customers are able to find it. That's the really high value stuff. The actual product itself is important, but you can outsource that to people who are way better than me at creating coloring pages or graphic design or that sort of thing. Outsource all of that. Just focus on the really high value stuff. So my KDP business is very much kind of outsourced now. So I also have my YouTube channel, which is kind of where a lot of my time's going. I really want to grow that out and keep scaling that. And also my KDP coaching, so my online course and also my one-to-one mentorship. That's kind of where a lot of my energy is going, whereas my money is going towards outsourcing the KDP stuff.
Got it. And what would you give the listeners when they also, or they're thinking of having let's say a life like you, actually having the freedom to live everywhere, or actually maybe they also want to do the same business, what would be your advice?
It's a good question. I think one that people just don't generally say. I think the biggest thing from my journey is, again, this is still quite cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. But things are going to go wrong and they're going to mess up. But you have two people, either, I'm so hard done by or whatever. Everything that goes wrong is your fault at some point down the line. So my biggest issue when I burnt out, I've worked so hard for this, it's so unfair. But it's my fault because I've worked myself too hard. So I think just taking responsibility for everything that you do, even if it's out of your hands, treat it as if it's your responsibility, and then you have no one else to blame. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. And I think that's just really important, because if you have this victim mentality of, so unlucky, it's just not going to happen for me, you start telling yourself these things and you just give up. Whereas I think if you just take responsibility for everything, even though you might not want to, or your ego is no, can't afford to fail there, just take responsibility and you'll be amazed kind of how much control you actually have over things. And just say, you know what, everything's my fault. All the bad things are my fault, and all the great things are because of me. And I think that's the most important thing, especially as a guy. You have to take responsibility for everything that happens in your life.
Absolutely. So, Sam, thank you so much for having you here in the very first episode of Talking.
Thanks for having me. It's a privilege. First episode.
I hope you liked it.
Loved it. Apart from the power cut halfway through.
We made the best out of it.
Again, responsibilities.
Correct. The only issue for me was I couldn't enjoy the shisha the whole podcast. But we will change that for the next episodes. And how can the listeners actually interact with, is there any chance to get in touch with you?
So like I said, I'm building out my YouTube channel, Samazon KDP.
We will put it here. We will put it here somewhere.
I'm sure it'll be in the description. Obviously have my YouTube videos there. Within my YouTube videos, you'll be able to find my courses, my mentorship. But I'm very active on Twitter, so I have a following there. So
nice. You
can DM me on Twitter. I'd be more than happy to help anyone out, whether that's KDP advice or just general kind of online business or Bali advice. More than happy to. It's much easier to contact me there than something like YouTube. So Twitter's the main one, but YouTube too.
Perfect. All right. That's it with the first episode of Talk and Do. I hope you guys found some inspiration in today's episode. And if you like this video and you like the whole idea of me sitting next to some people driving a crazy career and moving to Bali, and trust me, there will be a lot of interesting guests I will invite here next to me, talking about the craziest business, and also England is there's some people actually coming from crazy countries, I would say, so
it's classic Bali, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a nice journey. Please also let me know in the comment section. How did you like the first episode? Is there something we could improve? What would you like to see in the next episodes? Because obviously we are hopefully growing together, and I think that's pretty much it. And thank you so much for watching, and then see you next time in the next episode of Talk and Do.